I'm Julie Hill, and along with Katie Mantooth, we're hosting the two of you today. Thanks for joining us. And we both work at UT Martin, but we're also the co-presidents of our local nonprofit, Weakley Arts Can. And we really appreciate you all agreeing to do a short interview on the arts today. We want to talk a little bit about Weakley Arts Can and our relationship with our county and how that has only just strengthened since we got started. And then also to promote our upcoming Arts Integration Conference hosted via Zoom on June 16th. So the first thing I wanted to do was just congratulate both of you. I cannot imagine the challenges that you have overcome and worked together in this past few months to help our students and teachers be as successful as possible. Just the meal deliveries alone are Herculean, and I'm good friends with Karen Campbell, the communications director for Weakley County Schools, and she's kept both of us, me and Katie, updated, and it's just absolutely amazing and wonderful to see the leadership that we have had. So thank you both for so many extra hours. I know it's always a busy job, but it's got to have been tough.
It takes a village. I mean,
Yes.
we've had a lot of good people in our system that have gone above and beyond. We're proud of that.
Well, I'm proud to know you both, and so thank you for all your work and with our students and teachers, parents, all the above. Graduation alone just makes my head spin. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pop into some of these questions. Again, we want to thank you for joining us, and we'll be talking some today about our STEM to STEAM integration workshop on June 16th. But before that, I just wanted to start with a general question about the significance of having Weakley Arts Can be a nonprofit in our county. I mean, have you all felt any differently? Has that helped, we hope, in any way?
Yeah, so I'll go first. So yeah, I think you all's participation in the community has been of a great benefit and asset, both for our students, but also for their parents and for the community at large. So as a product of the local school system, as a product of the local school system, we've had music in, when I was in elementary school. We had some theater when I was in high school, but really sort of the evolution of the programming that you all have been able to sort of advocate for and then continue to advocate for, I think is really important for the student experience.
Thank you, Jake.
I would say from the school standpoint, I think having that support has allowed us to refocus our vision. I think sometimes we get so focused on the academic areas and the accountability that we have, we forget that there's a whole learning experience that needs to take place. And I think you all helping us with a vision and helping be creative and trying to find different ways that we can access learning for our students who are interested in arts. And I think that the community showing that support just does nothing but promote interest in our students. They look forward now to being a part of some of these things. So we've come a long way in a few years, and I just see this continuing to blossom going forward.
Thank you so much. That's great responses. And Mr. Frazier, that is all of this is in no part small credit to you. Anytime we've knocked on your door or your inbox, you have never said no. You have said, let's figure out how to make it happen. And if we can't do it now, when can we do it? What do we need? And I so applaud that type of vision and leadership and just openness to new ideas. And it's very much noticed and appreciated. You should know that by our whole group.
Well, we've gotten a new spark in a lot of our children's minds in the last year. So we've been able to activate some children and get them involved with areas that they've never been involved with before. And so I think that's going to be more important moving forward after kind of having a shutdown for us to continue to look for creative ways to involve those students.
Absolutely. And Katie made a thoughtful list here of just a couple of things that we have been able to get done along with both of your support and help. And that's just increased the theater-wide, county-wide theater program for high school students. We have choir in every middle school in our county now, which is just phenomenal. And we have had a Weakley Arts Can Wednesdays, which actually went out, I think, on Thursdays, but whatever, it sounded good at the time. And we were able to do some creative activities, even during the period of COVID, that were put into the newspaper, into the Weakley County Press, and that were delivered with the meals to students who did not have internet access. And then for those who did, we created some additional links and put those on our website. So I don't know how many people have utilized those. Karen tried to do a survey to find out, but we do know some at least were participating in those activities, and we thank you all. We're proud of our group for creating them, but we thank you all for figuring out a way to distribute them. We hosted this past year our first ever Arts Advocacy Conference, and we had Americans for the Arts and Tennessee Arts Ed on the UT Martin campus for a day. And we were one of 4 sites chosen in the state, which is pretty awesome to do so. And Steve Van Treese, you know, our school board president, participated, and David Belote, one of our aldermen in the city, participated. And that was just so cool that they showed up. We had teachers, Katie, from hour and a half, 2 hours away in some cases, that drove in, which was great. So we had really great participation in that. A couple other things. We had our first countywide art show this year. Congratulations on that. I know Karen, who works in your office, Mr. Frazier, and also is very dedicated to our group, was a big part in making that happen. So kudos to her too. And then we've also had Art in the Park. We started last summer. We're still going to try to do something. Even though we're not having Soybean Festival, we're coming up with some ideas right now about murals and ways that we can have some things out for parents and children to safely stop by and work on, to still be creative. But so there's some things coming there soon. But the focus really is to talk about moving forward in the future. And we know Zoom has become a way of life for all of us. And so we're pushing on with a Arts Integration Conference called From STEM to STEAM, with the A in it, of course, for the arts, and that will be on June 16th. And I'll be sharing a flyer with this video and registration information so people know how to sign up for that. But I just want to ask a few questions that will sort of tease people, hopefully, to registering for the conference, because we hope that that will be something enticing, not just for the art teachers out there, for the non-art teachers that are interested in exploring arts integration and what the values of that are, as well as administrators who might want to know more about the positives of implementing such a program. And we're going to keep the conference really short and sweet, just a couple of hours, but I want to ask some questions that will lead us to that. So I'm up for the first 2 here, and either of you respond first is fine. Do you think the arts should only be taught by arts specialists?
I'll start with that one.
Okay.
Absolutely no. I think that if you go around our school buildings, you will find a lot of creative teachers who are not art teachers that find out creative ways to teach their particular topics and subject area using the arts. And so I think it has to be driven in order to be coordinated. It needs to be driven by our arts experts, but it needs to be integrated into our classrooms. And so I think that to me, that's always been important for us to integrate different subject pedagogy into the various class environments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and my answer would be similar. In typical politician manner, though, my answer is going to be no, but. So no, I think that, as Randy has mentioned, we see a lot of teachers integrating even sometimes what they don't necessarily think of as art. So whether that's movement in the classroom or music during certain times of the day, is obviously integrating those pieces of art into our students' curriculum. But we also recognize that there are specialties that are out there, whether that's a music teacher. My wife was a dance instructor and is just a couple of credits short of actually being able to teach in the public school system through dance. And so being able to tap into those resources that you have inside your buildings is really important, to not just have this wide span of art programming in your school, but also very dedicated and specific curriculum is really important as well.
Oh, those are both fabulous answers. I find that when you say arts integration to people, sometimes their teachers are like, I can't sing. It's like, no, it's okay. Wait a minute. So those are great responses. Next question is, what do you think the comfort level will be for teachers to use the arts in connection with other learning across their classroom curriculum?
And I'll take a shot at that one first. First, we've already talked about like the integration of arts in the classroom, and that teachers are probably doing that seamlessly without even knowing it, and acknowledging it. I think it's also really important that the discussion now is that arts is not a subject, so it's not music or art or theater, but art is a discipline. And so there are these educational pieces that you can incorporate in. Art has historical references and cultural references and all of those sort of things. And so I think that there's a mindset change that we've got to have a discussion around about how do you do those sort of things without sort of getting outside of what you're comfortable in, as far as I teach reading, math, and science.
Absolutely.
And I think what we find in our buildings that being comfortable will be a wide spectrum of variations. You'll have some teachers who are very comfortable and are already incorporating some of those skills into their classrooms, and then some that are just not very comfortable. And I think that we have to kind of juggle that. Some subjects are easily integrated and correlated with the arts, and some are more difficult. I think we need to be strategically when we start looking at which subject areas to kind of hone in on to provide some of those skills. But I think what you'll find in most schools, it was interesting to see that survey results that they had in Bartlett City, the before and after, and I think you'll find that here, teachers are not comfortable because they don't understand what the wide realm of arts are. And so they feel uncomfortable, as you said, Julie, maybe I've got a singing class, or
Right.
there are a lot of different ways to teach art without having to be a performer yourself. And so I think once we teach our folks the various ways to do that, I think they'll be more comfortable.
Absolutely, Randy. I'm sorry, Mr. Frazier. I was trying to be formal on the recording. I found that survey to be very interesting. I was going back through that this morning, and to see the pre and the post survey. Mr. Frazier is referring to Bartlett Schools did a 3-year arts integration program, and they're going to be some of the panelists and presenters, administrators, arts teachers, but also the non-arts teachers are going to be on panel discussions to talk about exactly the items that Mr. Frazier mentioned just now. And their pre-survey of starting the 3-year integration and their post-survey was really interesting to see how much more comfortable all the teachers got with arts integration, and how they got behind it and really supported it and saw the results for students. So I think that's a great point that you make. Now, I'm going to turn it over to my co-presidenta, Katie, for the next couple of questions.
Awesome. I have an example just of kind of this kind of conversation. I exposed our children just last night to cats, which they had not seen before. And my 12-year-old could not understand, why is there not a plot? What's the plot? Like, what's the story? And I'm like, it's based on a poem. Like, it's not really a plot. Can we appreciate the dancing or the costumes? I mean, it was like, I could not. But it led, they didn't appreciate it. But that kind of activity leads to a good conversation. And I think that's kind of where we see these examples of this happening. But okay, so parent hat and kind of our Weakley Arts Can here. In what ways do you imagine arts activities could help fill the gap between what students already know and what they need to know about a chosen topic, particularly given our abbreviated school year?
I had to think long and hard about that one. When we come back to school, because there's so many uncertainties, it's hard for us to make solid decisions now of what it could look like. But I think what's important, that because we're going to be so focused on recovering time and taking the most advantage of the time that we do have, that we can't continue to do all of our subject areas in a standalone setting. I think they're going to have to be more integrated now. I think in the past, we've always asked our arts teachers to help become familiar with our subject area standards that outside of their field of study. And I can remember my days as a classroom evaluator, going into my PE classes, my music classes, my art classes, and seeing teachers teach skills that were happening in the other academic areas. And so I think we have to flip that around. And now we have to figure out a way in the classroom to help teach those skills, because we are going to be strained more for time, particularly this year, of when we can pull students out and do extra things. So I think that that's going to be very important. I think our Weakley County arts teachers are going to have to drive that conversation. They know the different skills in their area of expertise, and they can share those with teachers about how can we incorporate those things into your subject area where it's a whole learning experience. You know, my biggest thing, a lot of our subjects, our academic subjects, are not active learning. And when you incorporate the arts, now you have active learning that sometimes will allow the student to remember that learning much longer than they ever could in just a rote learning type setting. So I think it has a lot of advantages. We've got to be creative in figuring out a way to make that happen.
I don't think you struggled with that at all. I think that was beautiful. Well done. Well said.
Yeah, good job, Randy. Thanks a lot. Way to leave me hanging out here. So I'll just take a shot at it and say that I agree with Randy. I get questions all the time about, like, what do you think school looks like next year? And as a person who is not going to have really a piece of what that actually looks like, everything I say is speculative. But what I do think that we're seeing is that regardless, things are going to be very concentrated. They're going to be very focused because there is this piece of unknown. And so at times that may also look for students like not much fun. And so I do think that there's an opportunity for us to sort of weave the arts in and out of that curriculum or in and out of grade levels to make that more fun, more enjoyable. I think students don't really realize how much they would be in tune to some sort of art programming, because they're potentially not exposed to it prior to. And so I think weaving those things in will be really important to the success of our students as we sort of start to try and really get our arms around what do curriculums look like over the next coming months and years.
Great answers.
So also in the upcoming workshop that we have, we'll get to see the success of, having a grant like the Arts 360 that Bartlett was able to incorporate and hear what that's like. And that's fabulous to have that kind of budgeting, to have that support to create an integration program. We don't have that right now here in Weakley County, but how do you think a modified version could be done in Weakley County using perhaps the expertise of UT Martin and Weakley County Schools?
Well, the entire time I've been doing this job, I have known that what an asset we have right in our backyard with the university in lots of different areas. But certainly when we look at Weakley County and the benefit that this university has to that community, the arts is a huge piece of that. We are in, this very rural community, not just here in the county, but in Northwest Tennessee. And UT Martin is sort of kind of that beacon of cultural experiences for people that might not get those. And so there's this now asset that we have for our local school system as well to say, let's really use that asset. Let's use people like a Julie Hill, who's done some great programming work in percussions. I mean, you can go across the state and talk about Julie Hill's percussion group. And how do we then incorporate that into our local school system and take advantage of those assets? And the same thing can be said about our local school system. We've got some really talented people in our local school system. I would put our teachers and especially our fine arts curriculum up against a whole lot of people that look like our community. And so how do you use those resources? That's what my job is day in and day out is like finding those resources and then making them work for the betterment of your community. And I think we've got a real opportunity in both our local school system and certainly with the university.
And I think from the school standpoint, the integration of subjects is not something new for us. We've been integrating writing across the curriculum for years. We've been integrating reading across the curriculum. And we found out that when you don't teach those subjects in a standalone setting, they're more effectively taught in integration. So I think our folks understand that concept. Our teachers understand that. I think for us to move forward with this without grant dollars, I think it's important that we look for a focus area, maybe a particular subject that we can incorporate our arts into. And more importantly, maybe a pilot group, a pilot grade, a pilot school, where it's kind of like what I saw this year. I hired Jason Stevens years ago as a teacher and a coach at Gleason, had no idea he had any art interest at all. And when he got involved with that program, it just took off because he had an interest in it. He was able to motivate the students. And I think that we have other teachers who would be willing to pilot and do some things in their classroom that once you see that success and how you can commingle together, it's easier then to make that a district-wide initiative. So I would think kind of bite this off in a small chunk at first and then move forward, but make sure that whatever we decide to do, that we do it in a focus that we know that we're selecting the persons and the subject areas that will absolutely work together.
Katie, can I interrupt for just a second before? I love that idea, Mr. Frazier. I think that's fantastic. And I don't know what I've been seeing the budget funding allocation for hotspots and, Wi-Fi in the more rural areas that don't have that. And I don't know what the timeline is. I'm sure that you're in on those conversations. And I know that is one restriction, but one of the positives of what we're doing right now of this Zoom technology is that we can connect as long as they have good internet access and a device. And I know y'all are working on devices for all the students, that I can have one of my students teach a private lesson to a kid in Palmersville, where normally they wouldn't have time to drive there and do that. There's some tremendous advantages if we do what you say with a control group, a pilot group that wants to make it happen. And I would be completely on board from music, at least. I can't speak about the other arts on our campus, but I would absolutely love to be a part of that. And I think this is a great time to do that for all the reasons, we've mentioned timeline being more condensed possibly next year and not having traditional classes. So I would love to continue that discussion. I think that's great.
And I think one thing that I've seen in the last 2 months that's been different in Weakley County, and a lot of that is having so much time on our hands, our children. When I drive throughout communities, I see more chalk painting and artistic works on driveways, sidewalks, those things than I've ever seen, and really some creative things. So I think our children have found out that this is another venue to fill time with, to become a hobby and do something that they can carry on in a different setting, even after they're through with school. So I just think it has a lot of opportunities and possibilities.
Well, we can continue this discussion. Katie, I don't know if you have any wrap up. I wanted to screen share for just a second to show the flyer and the registration.
I just wanted to give a plug for the countywide theater program. One of my children, opted in and got a part in the program that they were able to perform before all of this happened. And that was, she found a new group of friends. She now has friends across the county. It gave her a new way to express herself. She had no idea she could memorize those kind of lines. It's just been really cool to see her learn how to express herself. She's a middle kid, so she's following the big sister, it was really good. And not only that, they held auditions for a second play over Zoom, and they are now practicing Our Town right now, just waiting for a time in the future when they'll be able to be in person and perform it. And there's even software they're using to practice like staging. And so anyway, as a parent, I can confirm that has made a difference in multiple kids, but I get to see one.
It definitely has connected our schools. I think the barriers and bridges that we've built in our county have been formed by adults, not the students and children. So anyway, we've been able to group our kids together regardless of school and give them a productive opportunity. It's been good.
Really good.
Thank you both. I'm going to just do a quick screen share to show the flyer. So This is again our Arts Integration Workshop from STEM to STEAM on June 16th from 10 to 2:30. There will be a program available. Some of our featured keynote speakers are here. As you can see, Jamin Carter with Arts Integration Consultant for Focus 5, and that's with the Kennedy Center in New York, as well as James Wells, Innovative Teaching and Learning Manager with Crayola, which is a name we all know. Sponsors are our State Music Association, TMEA, the Country Music Association Foundation, and then we also have, this group is hard to say, TCVPAS, but it's basically arts administrators across the entire state of Tennessee. I meet with that group as well, and I've been on to talk about the conference, and they're really excited about it. Weakley Arts Can, of course. Bartlett City Schools, who Mr. Frazier mentioned earlier, has participated in active arts integration, and they're kind of some of the experts in our state. There are some other schools in East Tennessee and Murfreesboro that are going to participate as well. And then, of course, our sponsor right here on the video today, Weakley County Schools with Mr. Frazier supporting that, and we are very grateful for all of these sponsors. I do want to mention a professional development credit will be provided. And to register for the conference, you can see the URL here, but it's tinyurl.com/Tennessee Arts Workshop. And I'll stop the screen share. You can find more information on our Weakley Arts Can website and also the State Music Association website as well. And I don't know if Katie has anything. I just wanted to, I'm so grateful that you all made time for us today. This has been easy and really relaxed, and it's perfect. It's exactly what we were hoping for, and we're going to edit it and share it with you all, and hope that you can help us get the word out a little bit more. And just again, we hope that it will be arts teachers, of course, but also core teachers, and not just the arts teachers, as well as administrators that want to find out. Parents are welcome to join as well. So the more the merrier. And
Julie, I just want to say, you may know this, Karen may have shared this with you, but she drafted a letter from me that we shared with the listserv of all the superintendents across the state. And so I think we think about us being rural and small, but we're the largest rural system in our area. There are a lot of smaller districts who have much less resources and expertise than we do. And I think if we can make this continue to be positive for our district, that will filter over into some of our neighboring districts also. So
that's absolutely the goal, Mr. Frazier, of course, to help as many as we can. That's a great point. Thank you. Thanks for all your support. I did read the email. I think Karen sent it to me and Katie to read through first. And we were just like, wow, this is going to go to all the superintendents. It's really cool. And we sure do appreciate it. And I'll be sharing this video with you all when we get it edited. And just we're grateful again. Thank you so much.